Hello, my name's Lizzie. I'm Anglican. In 4 months' time, I'm going to be moving into a convent, ready to become a postulant. And I get the impression from talking with some people that they think that in a convent, I'm going to be living off like gruel and stale bread and soup. And this video is to reassure you that religious life isn't like medieval times. So here's a video on what I will be eating.
I will hold your people in my heart.
Believe it or not, nuns are normal people and eat normal food, including like biscuits, cake, pudding. So to give you an idea of um, the kind of food I've eaten at convents, I suppose the overarching thing would be that because you've taken a vow of poverty and you don't have much, you've got to be really careful with money, then obviously you're not going to be eating like more expensive foods and more fancy ones. But all the communities that I've been to or convents that I've stayed at, they've also eaten meat quite a bit, like maybe not every day, but obviously if you're vegetarian, that because most communities have at least some sisters who are vegetarian, so there's always been vegetarian options, but it hasn't been like the whole community has been a no meat zone, as it were. At least not any of the convents that I've stayed at. So breakfast breakfast has tended to be like cereal or toast and fruit. I think was breakfast, or maybe yogurt. Like those like cheap big pots of yogurt that you take a serving from, kind of thing. And then what I would call lunch, or what other people might call dinner, like the midday meal, has tended to be the main meal of the day, like the main cooked meal. And the kinds of things I've often eaten at convents have been the kind of meals that I um, grew up on. Things like shepherd's pie, spaghetti bolognese, um, casserole, or what would you call it? Like things with rice, like chicken and rice. I can't think. Yeah, like meals like that anyway. And then on the side you might have like potatoes or different vegetables to add to whatever like the main dishes. And quite a few communities I've been to have been able to grow some of their own vegetables and fruit in an allotment or a little garden outside. So I think communities they try to be as self-sustaining as possible, including in making or like growing their own food. But in terms of where they get their food from, just to sidetrack slightly, I think it's quite common now just to do, when you do an online order and a delivery van or whatever brings it to you. I think that's probably becoming increasingly popular. I've definitely seen that at quite a few convents. Um, or I guess otherwise you would just have sisters getting in a car and going to the local supermarket. So that was the main meal, and then maybe like biscuits, or I think quite often sisters will just help themselves to fresh fruit like bananas or apples, whatever, if they want it during the day. And then I think evening tends to be more of a kind of fix your own supper in quite a few communities I've been to, and that'll just be like using like you do at home, just putting together bits and pieces that need eating that you've still got in the fridge. So things like, what have I had before? Like mushrooms on toast or egg on toast, or like jacket potatoes, and you add just various leftover bits and pieces and salad to it, that kind of thing. And for pudding, what have I? Yeah, most convents I've stayed at lunch, when we've had our main cooked meal, we've also had like a quite substantial pudding as well, like a proper cooked one. Like what have I had? Rice pudding has been very popular. Um, Jam tart, where you made like a big one that size, like a sort of cake size, and you cut it into like triangle portions. What have I had in the summer? Things like maybe tinned or fresh strawberries or tinned strawberries, and maybe like cold ambrosia custard stuff. Or like in the winter, things like apple crumble and custard. And tinned fruit seems very popular in convents, I guess because it's cheaper than fresh fruit. Yeah, so they're the kind of puddings that I've had. And yogurt seems to be available too. So yeah, that's the kind of food that I'm used to eating at convent. So I'll do a different video about things like if you're vegan or if you've got allergies, or like if you need medication, those kinds of things, like more specialist sort of concerns. But in terms of a general food video, that's the kind of food that I've eaten in the past at convents, and that I will be eating. So yeah, I won't starve. We won't starve, and yeah, it's probably what you eat at home, or pretty normal stuff.